So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tim Griffith. I am Results for America's Workforce Development Director, and I'm pleased to be emceeing today's informational webinar on our upcoming RFA Solutions Sprint, Connecting Talent to Opportunity, how to launch a transitional jobs program that works. I am honored today to be joined by my colleagues at the Center for Employment Opportunities, who are partners on this sprint. We'll be sharing more in a bit about CEO and the program model and kind of what those interested in this sprint opportunity can expect to learn. Before we jump in, I wanted to do a couple of housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded and will be shared after the session. So feel free to share with colleagues that weren't able to make it today. We are in a virtual setting, and it's great that we can meet across the country. But for those who are comfortable and are willing, it'd be great if you can turn on your cameras, just so we can feel like we all be in the same room in person. We will ask folks to stay on mute throughout the session until we get to the Q&A portion, which we're hoping to save the last 20 minutes for that. And as you have questions about the sprint opportunity and CEO's program model, feel free to drop those into the chat. We'll address those in the Q&A portion, or you can wait till that time. Additionally, if you wouldn't mind just dropping into the chat your name and organization affiliation, that would be great, just so we can get a sense of who is in this virtual room. So for our agenda today, we are going to be covering a good amount of topics around the sprint opportunity itself and the logistics. And then I'll turn it over to our partners at CEO, who are going to walk through their program model and answer any questions for you all as we get to it. And then we'll use like I said, the last 20 minutes to answer any questions you might have as you're considering whether or not to apply to this opportunity. So first, just to provide a little bit of background about Results for America and for the Center for Employment Opportunities. Results for America is a national nonpartisan organization where we help decision makers at all levels of government harness the power of evidence and data to solve the world's greatest challenges. Our mission is to make investing in what works the new normal, so that when policymakers make decisions, they start by seeking the best evidence and data available, then use what they find to get better results. Our goal is to make proven approaches easier to implement, easier to fund, and easier to scale, so more dollars flow to solutions with evidence behind them. Our partners in this sprint is the Center for Employment Opportunities, or CEO. CEO provides immediate, effective, and comprehensive employment services exclusively to people recently released from incarceration. CEO currently operates in over 30 cities and is dedicated to ensuring justice-impacted job seekers have opportunities to achieve socioeconomic mobility. CEO's vision is that anyone with a recent criminal history who wants to work has the preparation and support needed to find a job, stay connected to the labor force. Their program consists of providing participants with immediate employment, with daily pay, skills training, job placement, and ongoing career support. If you go to the next slide. So this sprint opportunity is one component of RFA's workforce development team's technical assistance services. So myself and Kelsey Berkowitz, who is our associate director, along with other entities here at Results for America, we work with the public workforce system at the state and local level in two primary buckets. The first is helping state and local workforce agencies and local boards shift dollars towards evidence-based workforce programs. This is largely through implementing the recommendations that we have on RFA's Workforce Evidence-Based Spending Guide, which you can find available on our website. The second bucket of work that we provide support to state and local governments is through implementing evidence-based workforce solutions like CEO's transitional jobs model. So this opportunity is our first solution sprint where we work with workforce system partners to adopt and scale evidence-based workforce programs through structured and time-bound engagements called solution sprints. The goal of moving jurisdictions from interest in a program to actually be able to implement and scale this in your community. If you go to the next slide. So our solution sprint model is a virtual cohort learning model designed to accelerate the adoption and implementation of evidence-based programs, policies, and practices that have demonstrated success in helping local governments improve economic mobility for the residents. RFA has run dozens of solution sprints up at this point over the last 5 years, and we're excited to, as I said earlier, run our first workforce development focused solution sprint with our partners at Center for Employment Opportunities. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Hillary Sheen-Williams, who's going to provide some more information about CEO's model and some background around the motivation for this sprint. Hillary?
Yeah, thank you, Tim. And I'm here today with my colleagues, Sarah Glenn Leastakow and Casey Pfeiffer, and we're really excited to share our work with you today. So since the solution sprint is focused, and we could go to the next slide. Because this solution sprint is focused on transitional jobs programs, we'd like to spend a few minutes outlining the problems that these programs set out to solve. Transitional jobs programs can be set up to support a variety of different populations, but for this sprint, our focus is on justice-impacted populations. People who've been in contact with the justice system need to work in order to earn money for themselves and their families. This group encompasses a large number of people, with over 600,000 people being released every year from state and federal prisons, and more than 6.9 million people in active contact with the justice system at any given moment. This can include people who are incarcerated or formerly incarcerated, also those who are on probation, parole, or pretrial diversion. These folks face many challenges when looking for work. Some of the most pressing barriers include a lack of resources like transportation or work attire, stigma against hiring justice-impacted people during the hiring process, and a lack of relevant work experience that would make them competitive for high-quality jobs. Could go next slide. When justice-impacted people seek employment in their communities, these barriers can have real impacts. Incarceration has been directly linked to decreased wages, a fewer number of weeks worked per year, and decreased earnings overall compared to groups who were not incarcerated. Incarceration is also linked to higher unemployment rates post-release across all demographics, and this disparity is heightened for marginalized groups. Next slide. Now that we've outlined the problem, let's take a deeper look at how transitional jobs programs can be a solution to many of the barriers that justice-impacted job seekers can face. Transitional jobs programs are entities that provide job seekers with both paid employment and short or long-term career support. These programs usually include temporary paid employment opportunities that have low barriers to entry, such as lengthy application processes or requirements for prior work experience. These opportunities are intended to be short-term and serve the purpose of supporting a person with income and meaningful work experience during a transitional period in their lives. Successful transitional employment programs will pair these paid work opportunities with complementary programming, which can include job search support, interview coaching, employer matching, and advanced workforce training. I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Sarah, who's going to take a deeper look at CEO's program model.
Thanks, Hillary. Just double checking everybody can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Next slide, please. So as Tim mentioned a little bit about our program model up front, we have multiple phases I'm going to describe in a minute, but first I just want to contextualize that our program and our evidence is based on this model, but the goal in the sprint will be to help you discover and develop the model that works for you and your jurisdiction. So we'll talk a lot about how we've done this work, and we'll help you figure out how you can best do the work. So our program starts with recruitment and enrollment. We recruit primarily from local criminal legal supervisory agencies, that's probation and parole, but we also do a ton of outreach to community-based organizations that serve our folks. We do a lot of word of mouth. We do some in-reach sometimes in custodial facilities where people are preparing to leave. So it's a really approach the whole ecosystem, but we're always partnered with probation and parole to provide employment services to people who've recently returned home. After recruitment and enrollment, folks join our Pathways to Employment orientation program. That is very similar to any onboarding you'd have at any job you're starting. A lot of it is about going through your documents, going through all the expectations, the job description, the schedule, but it's also about preparing people to work. About 50% of our folks coming home have not had formal employment in the past or high school education. So for a lot of folks, this is their first formal employment. And for other folks, they've been employed for decades and they're returning home. So there's a huge variety of what people are coming into. So we make sure that the orientation encompasses all the things you might need to know about a job. That's a paid 2-day orientation. And then at some sites, they might do a third day that's specific to the job they're going to do. So it might include the safety, the specific job duties and functions, and that day would be paid as well. When they're finished with those pieces of the program model, they start transitional work for us up to 4 days a week, but a typical 3-day-a-week program. They're working on whatever their job site is. We're the largest reentry employment organization in the country. So we're in 12 states and 30 sites. So the job they're doing at those sites across the country really varies. The goal isn't to bring people in our program to permanently do that specific job. That specific job is a means to an end. It's to provide immediate employment, to develop workplace habits that are durable and transferable to other jobs. And they vary. That's part of what we're going to talk about in the sprint is how you find those opportunities and partnerships to provide that transitional job. So simultaneous to working those 3 to 4 days a week, they also do vocational development with a case manager. That case manager is assigned to them and will work with them through the duration of the program. They help them, number one, figure out what they want to do in their journey home, what barriers, what goals they have, where they want to go, how they want to take advantage of the program. They develop through that individualized employment plan of sorts. And then they start getting to work. They do assessments on people's readiness for jobs. Like I said, some people are coming in after decades of work, even though they've been gone for a while. And some people are really just starting, trying to figure out what it looks like to be formally employed. And then they progress at their own pace. So we provide up to 75 working days. So that translates to about 6 months if you're working 3 days a week. And during that time frame, they go through those barriers, those goals, and they work to prepare for long-term unsubsidized employment in the community at the employer of their choice. So they might be doing a lot of preparation to get ready for work. That could be resumes, preparing how they might get to work, how they might secure childcare, or some folks are ready to go. They come in with a resume and they need connections to employers. So depending on where you're at, that time changes. Some people are with us, maybe a month. Most people on average are around 3 months. Very few people stay the total of 6 months without having been placed in a job or finding other things that they need to focus on at that time. Our job developers work to both develop their preparation for work and to develop employers who have job opportunities to hire them. Once they're placed in a job opportunity with an employer in the community, we provide another year of retention supports where we have a retention specialist check in with them every month. Sometimes they might go to their job to visit them. They might meet them after work because their hours don't fit in the 9 to 5. And their goal is to, one, continue to verify employment. That's part going back to the evidence-based model. If we are truly evidence-based, we have to demonstrate, the employment rate and employment retention through verified pay stubs. And it's also to make sure that people continue to move through their job, addressing any ongoing barriers, applying for raises, navigating workplace challenges, getting promotions, getting more training. We provide advanced training. So folks who need training to move up in the workplace can come back or simultaneously do training at CEO. And then also to help people get new jobs whenever they need a new job or lose a job. We have found, again, through our internal evaluations and evidence, that people who have 2 jobs that first year have the best attachment to the labor force. That first job people get, isn't necessarily the permanent job, just like most of us have experienced, is that we need to move up over time. And so getting that second job within that first year really helps with attachment to the labor force, we found. Next slide, please. This is just a little bit of some of the evidence they've talked about. Because we've been around for 40 years and because we're so large, we have the benefit of being able to undergo RCTs as well as other targeted evaluations with third parties. That's, we're lucky that we have so much data, so much time, and a lot of infrastructure to be able to do these. There's a lot more on the evidence base on our website if you want to check it out, but here's just a few outcomes we wanted to highlight. So one thing that can be hard with a small transitional work program, a social enterprise program, is that it's very hard to get the data from criminal legal agencies. So in these instances with RCTs, randomized control trials, we're able to get that data. So we've shown a 22% reduction in recidivism, a 25% reduction in incarceration for new crime. Our employment outcomes are probably what is the most important and exciting about the work, is that we've had a 52% increase in employment rates at 12 months. And we've had a 48% increase at 36 months. So 36 months is really important because that means 3 years after the program, the skills and the success obtained during the time in the program continue to last and multiply. And then obviously very important is wage growth. So sometimes people are worried about those initial jobs and what the wages are. So we know that we need to see wage growth over time in our participants, and more importantly, they need to see it. So we've seen through data and reporting that quarterly income growth between 65 to 123% a year after program completion. And I'll pass it off to our next speaker for the next slide.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. So CEO's model of transitional jobs programs is just one model, and there are a lot of ways to operate transitional jobs programs that provide support to justice impacted job seekers in your city. I want to take a deeper look at how implementing a program like this can have a very real impact in your community. While the evidence we have reviewed today focuses on people who are in contact with the criminal justice system, the community impact of these programs lifts a much broader population. When justice-impacted people are connected with high-quality jobs and paid work experience, the entire community will benefit. Research done on the CEO program by MDRC determined that there was a $3.30 taxpayer benefit for every $1 spent on the program. Connecting formerly incarcerated people to employment decreases recidivism, which can reduce crime in the community. Families and communities benefit when more people are earning a living wage. And local employers who partner with transitional jobs programs gain access to strong hiring pipelines and can feel supported by the job retention support services that these programs offer. Next slide. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. So I'm going to invite my colleague Casey to share a little bit more about how we can leverage this moment to implement transitional work programs and what those benefits can be.
Thanks, Hillary. Hi, everyone. We, as a last point, wanted to recognize that you all have limited time, and why should you focus on transitional jobs programs in your jurisdictions right now? And there's several reasons to do that with your limited resources. One is that increasingly the public investment for workforce programs available really recognizes the value of these transitional job programs. So to the extent that your jurisdiction is interested in leveraging federal workforce programs to support a program like this, there's lots of options to do that, and we will go into that during this sprint. So for example, CEO, we are a partner in SNAP employment and training in all of our jurisdictions and are reimbursed up to 50% of the cost of providing transitional jobs and work experience to individuals coming home from incarceration. The second reason is that we're all in a lot of rooms where we're talking about AI and the changing nature of jobs. And we really want to make sure that people with barriers to work and people who are justice impacted aren't left out of those opportunities. All of our participants are extremely motivated to work and join the workforce. But as Sarah and Hillary talked about, individuals often need immediate support and immediate pay and transitional jobs while they figure out what job is right for them, and they build the skills that are necessary to meet the in-demand jobs of the moment. And then lastly, very relevant in this year and this time is that recently there were federal policy changes that required more individuals who access Medicaid and SNAP to comply with community engagement and work requirements. And there will be more individuals in your community that are seeking out job training slots and seeking out ways to meet those requirements. So transitional jobs programs are a great way to think about expanding the capacity to help people meet those requirements and stay connected to those benefits during critical moments in their lives. I believe I'm going to pass it back to Tim now to take us back to the sprint.
Great. Thank you, Hillary, Sarah, and Casey for that overview of CEO's program, and encourage folks in attendance. If you have questions, please drop those into the chat, and we'll kind of get to those shortly. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time of walking through the specifics and logistics of this sprint opportunity, and be able to kind of answer any questions folks might have if they are interested. So as I said at the top, this solution sprint is a free virtual learning opportunity, so there's no cost other than your time, to focus on the advancement and implementation of evidence-based transitional jobs program for justice impacted individuals and those returning home from incarceration. We've designed this sprint opportunity for community-based organizations, and they're partnering with either a local or state government agency interested in implementing or expanding transitional jobs programs for this population. Next slide. So what will happen if you decide to apply and are selected to participate? So first, one of the great benefits that we found from our sprint model is it really is a great opportunity to learn from experts, practitioner, and peers like our partners at the Center for Employment Opportunities and other kind of organizations who've implemented these programs, to basically just learn from the kind of deep expertise as you kind of work on developing a plan to implement this in your state or local community. Another great benefit is that these sprint opportunities and kind of the composition of the teams really does provide an opportunity to build those cross-sector partnerships and kind of coalition of community leaders needed for successful implementation. As we all know in this space, there's no one program, there's no one service that addresses kind of the multitude of barriers someone who's returning home from incarceration faces to finding a job. So this is an opportunity, I think, to bring those different partners across state and local government agencies and community-based organizations to kind of leverage this moment. One of the things we focus on throughout the sprint is the development of an action plan for implementation. So the goal is when you walk out of the sprint, you'll have an action plan that you'll be able to take forward and implement over the next 12 to 18 months. And as part of that, we define kind of what the program model would be in your area, the metrics you would use to kind of measure success. And then, as Casey highlighted, kind of what funding sources are available at a federal, state, and local level, and kind of the levers you have through grant making, procurement, and contracting to kind of focus those dollars on kind of evidence-based transitional jobs programs. Next slide. Can you just go back one? In terms at the end of the sprint, so in addition to that implementation action plan, these are kind of what we see as the main learning objectives that folks will walk away from the sprint after the end of the 8 sessions. So, CEO, they talked about the different elements of their transitional jobs program. This sprint opportunity will let you, get better insights and kind of the key design features and kind of what is that secret sauce for these programs that have good evidence. In addition to that, we'll be providing kind of coaching on kind of how to kind of build those strong government and kind of partnerships to create those work opportunities that are so important for this program model. And then I think the last piece really is kind of understanding the different complementary program and supportive services that can kind of work with the transitional job element as well. Next slide. So the sprint will be held in 8 sessions that are 90 minutes long on Wednesdays, starting May 20th, 2026, and will run weekly through July 8th. The sessions are tentatively planned for 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, and this is kind of the schedule we have laid out at this time. Next slide. So who should be on a team? So in our sprint opportunity page, which hopefully you all have had a chance to check out, we kind of lay out kind of who are required partners in order to be accepted for this sprint opportunity, strongly recommended, and recommended. So for this specific opportunity, we are requiring that applicants have kind of agreements and team members from a community-based organization that can house and operate a transitional jobs program or enhance a current program that you may have just gotten off the ground or looking to kind of enhance based on kind of the evidence base in this space. In addition to the community-based organization, the team also needs to have a state and or local government official representing an agency. So it can be either a state agency or a local government agency or both, which would be great. In terms of local government examples, this can include kind of city council or mayor's offices, local workforce development board or American Job Center representatives, local SNAP or TANF agencies, and any local public safety agency or jails. For the state government level, we're looking for, these are just examples, it's not a kind of fully exhaustive list. Anyone who represents the state workforce board or workforce agency for WIOA, Human Services Agency for TANF and SNAP to take advantage of some of that funding that Casey outlined, and then also state corrections agency or community supervision agency. So those are kind of those are the core required partners. And if you go to the next slide, in terms of additional entities that should be on your team, we strongly recommend and believe that it's important to have those who've experienced incarceration or are justice impacted to be represented on this team. So we strongly encourage teams that are considering applying to include how they can incorporate those individuals or groups into their teams in order to make sure the solutions that are designed for your community kind of reflect the needs of these individuals. We also recommend including program evaluation partners. As Sarah indicated, CEOs undergone extensive evaluation, both external and internally. So having an organization or representative that can help you design a plan and strategy for understanding the effectiveness of your transitional jobs program is something that we strongly believe in. We also have a couple of other recommended partners. As Sarah laid out, they're having partnerships and relationships with referral partners like parole and probation offices, food bank and corrections counselors. Those are kind of groups that are can be important to this model. In addition, transitional job worksite partners, including social enterprises or public agencies with employment or workforce development needs, and then any kind of other local service providers that are reentry focused that provide housing or wraparound services. This is not meant to be a fully exhaustive list. This is illustrative, and we encourage folks, if they do apply, to try and include as broad of a group as you can. Next slide. So in terms of the participation requirement, so we pride ourselves on putting a lot of intention and thought into the design of these solution sprints. And we ask that teams that apply and are accepted, that they commit to, meaningfully participate in the sprint and committing to advancing the transitional jobs program after the sprint. So this includes making sure that you're actively participating, and we understand schedules change and extenuating circumstances happen, but we want to make sure that at least most of the team attends the sessions. We also expect participants to be committed to advancing more fair and effective justice outcomes by addressing racial, economic, and health disparities through their transitional jobs programs. And then, as I mentioned when we were talking about who should be on the teams, we pride ourselves on taking a person-centered approach and centering those who are directly impacted by incarceration and the justice system and the design, implementation, and evaluation of transitional jobs programs. Next slide. So what are the steps to apply? So first step is to create a team. We found that teams between 2 to 7 team members is a good balance, and we encourage folks to include additional team members up to the April 13th deadline. We do ask that there is a team lead who can coordinate communications and be our made point of contact. The application deadline is Monday, April 13th. The link is here on the screen. I think we can also drop that in the chat. And we ask that just one team, have one person submit the application on behalf of the whole team. We will provide notification of acceptance to the sprint by Friday, April 24th, and the sprint will kick off on May 20th. And one thing, before we go to the next slide, one thing I wanted to mention that I think Sarah and Hillary alluded to is that the goal of the sprint is not to implement CEO's specific model. You're more than welcome to do that, but the goal is really to learn from the deep evidence base that's been developed over the past 20 years on their model and apply that to your community. So I know there were a couple of questions about that submitted in advance of this webinar. So I just wanted to make that clear that the goal is really to adapt and kind of advance transitional jobs programs, drawing upon CEO's model and other models that best fits your community. Next slide. Here you go. This is everything you need to know about how to sprint. Next slide. Before we jump into the Q&A, I wanted to kind of make a note for, if after this webinar you decide, this probably isn't the right opportunity for me. Results for America, we operate what we call our Results Network. This is a free online community that's meant to connect and support local government leaders, kind of identify evidence-based solutions and connect with their peers across the country. So this would be a great resource if you're not able to participate in the sprint, but kind of want to learn more. We plan on sharing these materials through our Results Network. And I just wanted to kind of highlight that here and to scan on the QR code if you're interested in learning more. Next slide. All right, well, with that covers kind of our portion of the presentation today. So really do want to open it up for Q&A here. If you have questions and you're not necessarily comfortable sharing here in the chat or need some time to ruminate on things, you can reach out to us at citysolutions@resultsforamerica.org. And the link to the application is also here. We'll share this link out to folks, and it looks like it's in the chat as well. To learn more. It covers a lot of the same material we just walked through. So with that, are there any questions in the chat? Does anybody want to come off mute, raise their hand if you have a question? Happy to answer it live here.
Tim, I can take the question that Karina put in if you want, or does anybody else want to start?
Yeah, why don't you take that question, Sarah?
Sure. And then, Karina, I'm going to ask you maybe for some clarification too, just to make sure I'm on the right track. When you say a little bit more about the evidence, do you want to know about specific aspects of it? Do you want to know where the evidence comes from? Do you want to know what the evaluation's involved?
I guess I meant just more like, I know you spoke a little bit already about like why this approach works in getting people returning from incarceration into a full-time position, but was wondering if you could just expand on that a little bit more.
Yeah, it's a good question because when you look at the final results from those randomized controlled trials, what you're seeing is the outcomes, right? You could read the full, sometimes they're 100 pages. The inputs that create those outcomes, those are a little bit more mysterious. They're not immediately obvious from the outcomes, right? So we have an internal data and evaluation team that does a lot of more detailed combing through the inputs and the interim activities that lead to the outputs, because they're never one size fits all and they're not going to be as obvious as those outcomes. So what I can share are some understandings of correlation. The causation is hard. So, but we have some pretty, strong indicators that the correlation has led to that. So one thing that we found very consistent through our own model and internal evaluations is that folks who participate, or what we might call engage more in the transitional jobs, have better outcomes. So one kind of theory and one very obvious correlation is that when you participate in the transitional job, it leads to a series of activities, growth, development, engagement that makes you more likely to get a job. Some of that is what you would expect or what you see in schools and the educational settings, is that attendance really matters. Attendance matters for a variety of reasons, right? It's consistency, it's commitment, it's engagement with folks who are helping you develop skills, helping you learn, helping you connect to what you want in the end. So that's an example of what we've seen as an input that leads to those outcomes that have been shown through the randomized controlled trial. There's people getting more jobs as a result of this type of program and transitional jobs, and there's people staying in jobs longer and earning higher income. The biggest input that we can point to is that engagement, is that you're showing up every day with an organization or people who are helping you develop those plans and giving you tools to do so. So that's one example of why transitional jobs. Another part of that is kind of the obvious of income support stability. When folks are returning home, the biggest, the highest moment of risk for recidivism is in those first 90 days. Our goal is to connect with people right away, because giving income stability, a place to go. Sometimes folks just show up on days they're not working because they have a place to go, a place that feels comfortable. It's their workplace. They're an employee. So they can come and use the space and do the work, or just hang out if they want to. That stabilization in the first 90 days is also part of that outcome that contributes to the reduction in recidivism. Let me know if you have some other specific areas, but I do want to highlight, right, that it is hard to figure out exactly what's causing that. We do know that it causes improved outcomes. Why is another question.
Thanks, Sarah. I did see a hand raise from Tiffany Gray. Tiffany, I don't know if you had a question you wanted to ask?
Sure, thanks, Tim. I was trying to pretend that I didn't. I have so many. One of my first questions that I've gotten a lot, as I ask as many as you want, thanks, Sarah, that I've gotten a lot as I try to recruit people that are on this county side of government. They're curious about that time commitment. And as I've come to understand that there'll only be one winner, as there usually is in the sprint programs that you all run, I'm coming to understand that during this program, people will still be exposed to, correct me if I'm wrong, local, state, and federal grants that we will learn how to apply for together. So even if a cohort isn't exactly to win this sprint, it's still extremely beneficial, but mostly to these governmental agencies that can implement a large scale program and work together. Am I getting the right vibe there?
You are getting the right vibe. I do want to clarify that I probably should have said this at the outset. So we're looking to kind of accept between 10 to 20 teams. So there is not, quote unquote, going to be any one winner through the application process. And one of the key benefits of the sprint is that you will be part of kind of this larger cohort of other state teams, other local teams, other community-based organizations from all across the country that have that peer-to-peer learning. So we will be accepting between 10 to 20 teams for this sprint, and that is the goal. So everyone wins. Yes, Sarah. And hopefully that answers your question on that front. And then in terms of kind of what you will be learning, everyone's going to be starting at a different place. Some folks might have a transitional jobs program or have kind of operated one in the past but no longer do. Other folks are starting from square one. The curriculum, we try to be intentional in the curriculum and kind of in the activities we do to pair, less experienced teams with more experienced teams. So there is kind of that peer-to-peer learning and kind of meeting folks where they are. So we try to make it as meaningful as we can, understanding that there's only so much that you can accomplish during kind of a 90-minute weekly session over 8 weeks. We do have some kind of pre-reading activities before the sessions, and then we do ask folks to work on those implementation plans after the session and be prepared for the next week. So that kind of lays out the broader time commitment. Does that answer your question, Ms. Gray?
Uh, it it does, and I think for my follow-up question to that one, I'll probably email you guys. But it does lead me to my next question. So in the application process, there are 10 slots that you guys have allotted for your team. I probably emailed about 25 people in government today, expecting that about 20% of them will potentially say yes. But let's say that more than my expected number says, you know what, we're interested because, as you guys might know, Memphis, Tennessee has some of the highest crime rates in the country. So I'm very honored that I was invited the opportunity to apply. So if we do have a larger number of officials that are interested, is it um, is it possible to invite a larger number of team members to the application process? I mean, to the sprint?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that, Ms. Gray. That's an excellent question. And it's so great that you're eager, you're sending those emails away and reaching out to folks. I will say that we do prefer, quality over quantity in the sense that because the sessions build up, and it's meant to be a sprint, we prefer folks who are able to stay. So if there's elected officials, right, their calendars are jam-packed, they might come to one session but not make it to all of them. And so one way to mitigate that is if there's a staffer that works with that elected official that can kind of fill them in, meet with them afterwards and kind of brief them, that would be preferred. But someone who can be there consistently is definitely our preferred method. And then we do have 10 slots for a reason, right? We think that that's sort of like the sweet spot of team composition in terms of like numbers. Of course, if there's more and folks are committed and they can attend, we can definitely chat about that via email. But it is preferred to have it sort of like smaller. We'll have like team breakouts and things like that integrated into the sprint as well. And so sometimes with larger groups, it can be it's not enough time for everyone's voice to be heard in those spaces. So we want to make sure that we're valuing everyone's time and commitment to this as well. And so that's why that's a little bit of the rationale behind it. But I also want to add to that, if there's folks here who might not know who to reach out to, right? Or you're just starting your team composition, if you will, or your coalition, as Tim mentioned earlier, that's okay. And you can apply with whoever you have, and we're happy to sort of like fine tune that and meet with you and make sure that the right stakeholders are there. And so please have our email handy. We'd love to support you in any way that we can with that. And so I hope that's not a barrier for you to submit an application for this sprint as well.
Thank you guys, and I will honor everybody else's time and pull back and give people time to.
Thanks, Karen, and thank you for those questions. Any other questions for CEO on their model or about the specific sprint opportunity?
I had a question, Tim.
Hey, Tori.
How you doing, bud?
Good.
Just quick. I may have missed it because someone logged into my office when you got to the end here. But is there a deadline for the registration?
Yes, so we are asking for applications by April 13th.
Okay. I have a couple of new team members that I'm waiting on that I would like to put in charge of this, so that's why I was asking.
Yeah, and as Karen said, we even if the application isn't complete or you don't have like the full team or you're waiting to hear back from folks, just go ahead and submit the application, and we can work with you, kind of make those connections and kind of calibrate the team.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
any other questions, thoughts about this opportunity? All right. Well, I'm not seeing any in the chat. And thank you, Melissa, for those kind words. So I think we can go ahead and wrap up our webinar today. I really do want to thank you all for joining to learn about the solution sprint. The deadline is for applications is April 13th. Feel free to reach out to us at City Solutions, resultsforamerica.org. And if you have any questions, reach out. And thank you to our partners at Center for Employment Opportunities for presenting today. Learned a lot, and I'm looking forward to seeing everyone who's on this webinar submit an application by the 13th. Thank you all.
Thank you.